We welcome you all to the celebration of the Passion of the Lord. Today's celebration will be led by Bishop Charles in St. Mary's Tower of the Sea Cathedral, Darwin, Australia. And the choir will be led by Ace Choir. Before we begin, it's a kind request to everyone participating to put your phones in silent mode. Thank you. Let's make sign of the cross.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Today's liturgical celebration consists of three parts: liturgy of the Word, the veneration of the cross, and Holy Communion. On Good Friday, the entire church fixes her gaze on the cross at Calvary. Each member of the church tries to understand at what cost Christ has won our redemption. In the solemn ceremonies of Good Friday, in the adoration of the cross, in the chanting of the reproaches, in the reading of the Passion, and in receiving the pre-consecrated host, we unite ourselves to our Savior, and we contemplate our own death to sin in the death of our Lord. The church, stripped of its ornaments, the altar base, and with the door of the empty tabernacle standing open, is as if in mourning. No Mass is celebrated on this day, but the service of Good Friday is called the Mass of the Pre-Sanctified, because communion, which had already been consecrated on Holy Thursday, is given to the people. Traditionally, the organ is silent from Holy Thursday until the Alleluia at the Easter Vigil, as are all bells or other instruments, the only music during this period being unaccompanied chant. The omission of the prayer of consecration deepens our sense of loss, because Mass throughout the year reminds us of the Lord's triumph over death, the source of our joy and blessing. The desolate quality of the rites of this day reminds us of Christ's humiliation and suffering during his passion.
Remember your mercies, O Lord, and with your eternal protection, sanctify your servants, for whom Christ your Son, by the shedding of his blood, established the Paschal mystery, who lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
And we now listen to the scripture readings.
In today's first reading, the significance of the passage is how it allows that suffering can have a positive purpose. As such, it broke with a long biblical tradition that regarded suffering as a punishment of sin. It lays the foundation for one of the basic ideas of Christianity.
First reading, Isaiah chapter 52, verses 13 to chapter 53, verse 12. Behold, my servant shall prosper. He shall be exalted and lifted up, and shall be very high. As many were astonished at him, his appearance was so marred beyond human semblance, and his form beyond that of the sons of men. So shall he startle many nations. Kings shall shut their mouths because of him. For that which has not been told them, they shall see, and that which they have not heard, they shall understand. Who has believed what we have heard? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry grounds. He had no forms or comeliness, that we should look at him, and no beauty, that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrow, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgression, he was bruised for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that made us whole, and with his strips we are healed. And all we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearer is dumb, as he opened not his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people, and they made his grave with the wicked and with a rich man in his death. Although he had no violence and there was no deceit in his mouth, yet it was the will of the Lord to bruise him. He has put him to grief. When he make himself an offering of sin, he shall see his offerings for sin. He shall see his offering. He shall prolong his days. The will of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. He shall see the fruit of the travail of his soul and be satisfied. By his knowledge shall the righteous one, my servant, make many to be accounted righteous, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I will divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul to death, and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Psalm. Your response will be, Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Your response?
Father, into your hands I commend my spirit.
In you, O Lord, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your justice, set me free. Into your hands I commend my spirit. It is you who will redeem me, Lord. Your response?
Father, into your hands I commend my spirit.
In the face of all my foes, I am a reproach, an object of scorn to my neighbors, and of fear to my friends. Your response?
Father, into your hands I commend my spirit.
Those who see me in the street run far away from me. I am like a dead man, forgotten in men's heart, like a thing thrown away. Your response?
Father, into your hands I commend my spirit.
But as for me, I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. My life is in your hands. Deliver me from the hands of those who hate me. Your response?
Father, into your hands I commend my spirit.
Let your face shine on your servant. Save me in your love. Be strong. Let your heart take courage. All who hope in the Lord. Your response?
Father, into your hands I commend my spirit.
In today's second reading, St. Paul clearly says that we now have a high priest, Jesus, who came as a man, was obedient unto death, and became the source of salvation. Hence, we must draw near to the throne of grace.
Second reading. A reading from the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 4, verses 14 to 16, and chapter 5, verses 7 to 9. Since then we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession, for we have not a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sinning. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. In the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to him who was able to save him from death, and he was heard for his godly fear. Although he was a son, he learned obedience through what he suffered, and being made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation to all who obey him. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Let's rise for the acclamation. Christ became obedient unto death, even death on a cross. Therefore, God has highly exalted him and bestowed on him the name which is above every name.
Our Lord Jesus Christ, according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus left with his disciples and crossed the Cathedral Valley. There was a garden there, and he went into it with his disciples. Now Judas, the traitor, knew the place well, since Jesus had often met his disciples there. And he brought the cohort to this place together with a detachment of guards sent by the chief priests and the Pharisees, all with lanterns and torches and weapons. Knowing everything that was going to happen to him, Jesus then came forward and said,
Who are you looking for?
And they answered, Jesus the Nazarene. And Jesus said,
I am he.
Now Judas the traitor was standing there among them. And when Jesus said, I am he, they moved back and fell to the ground. And then he asked them a second time,
Who are you looking for?
and they said, Jesus the Nazarene. And Jesus replied,
I have told you I am he. If I am the one you are looking for, let these others go.
Now this was to fulfill the words he had spoken earlier. Not one of those you gave me have I lost. Now Simon Peter, who carried a sword, drew it and wounded the high priest's servant, cutting off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. But Jesus said to Peter,
Put your sword back in its scabbard. Am I not to drink the cup that the Father has given me?
Now the cohort and his captain and the newish guards seized Jesus and bound him. They took him first to Annas, because Annas was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year. It was Caiaphas who who had suggested to the Jews that it's better for one man to die for the people. Now Simon Peter, with another disciple, followed Jesus. This disciple, who was known to the high priest, went with Jesus into the high priest's palace. But Peter stayed outside the door. So the other disciple, the one known to the high priest, went out, spoke to the woman who was keeping the door, and brought Peter in. The maid on duty at the door said to Peter, "Aren't you another of this man's disciples?" But Peter answered, "I am not." Now it was cold, and the servants and guards lit a charcoal fire and were standing there warming themselves. So Peter stood there too, warming himself with the others. The high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching, and Jesus answered,
I have spoken openly to all the world to hear. I have always taught in the synagogue and in the temple where the people gather and meet. I have said nothing in secret. But why ask me? Ask my hearers. The ones I taught, they know what I said.
Now these words, one of the guards standing by gave Jesus a slap in the face, saying, "Is that the way you answer the high priest?" And Jesus replied,
If there is something wrong in what I said, point it out. But if there is no offense, why did you strike me?
Then Annas sent him, still bound, to Caiaphas the high priest. And as Simon Peter stood there warming himself, someone said to him, "Aren't you one of his disciples?" But he denied it, saying, "I am not." Now one of the high priest's servants, a relation of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, said, "Didn't I see you in the garden with him?" And again Peter denied it. And at once a cock crew. And then they led Jesus from the house of Caiaphas to the praetorium. It was now morning. They did not go into the praetorium themselves, or they would have been defiled and unable to eat the Passover. So Pilate came outside to them and said, "What charge do you bring against this man?" And they replied, "Well, if he were not a criminal, we should not be handing him over to you." But Pilate said, "Well, take him yourselves and try him by your own law." But the Jews answered, "We're not allowed to put a man to death." Now this was to fulfill the words Jesus had spoken, indicating the way he was going to die. So Pilate went back into the praetorium and called Jesus into him and asked, "Are you the King of the Jews?" And Jesus replied,
Do you ask this of your own accord, or have others spoken to you about me?
and Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? It's your own people and the chief priests who've handed you over to me. What have you done?" And Jesus replied,
Mine is not a kingdom of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my men would have fought to prevent me being surrendered to the Jews. But my kingdom is not of this kind.
And then Pilate said, "So you are a king then?" And Jesus answered,
It is you who say it. Yes, I am a king. I was born for this. I came into the world for this, to bear witness to the truth. And all who are on the side of truth, listen to my voice.
And then Pilate said, "Truth? What is that?" And with that he went out again to the Jews and said, "I find no case against him. But according to a custom of yours, I should release one prisoner at the Passover. So would you like me then to release this King of the Jews." At this they shouted, "Not this man, but Barabbas." Now Barabbas was a brigand. Pilate then had Jesus taken away and scourged. And after this the soldiers twisted some thorns into a crown, put it on his head, dressed him in a purple robe. And they kept coming up to him and saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they slapped him in the face. Then Pilate came outside again and said to them, "Look, I'm going to bring him out to you to let you see that I find no case." Jesus then came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, and then Pilate said, "Here is the man." And when they saw him, the chief priests and the guards shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" But Pilate said, "Take him yourselves and crucify him. I can find no case against him." And the Jews replied, "Well, we have a law, and according to the law he ought to die, because he's claimed to be the Son of God." Now when Pilate heard them say this, his fears increased. Re-entering the praetorium, he said to Jesus, "Where do you come from?" But Jesus made no answer. And Pilate then said to him, "Are you refusing to speak to me? Surely you know I have power to release you, and I have power to crucify you." And then Jesus replied,
You would have no power over me if it had not been given to you from above. That is why the one who handed me over to you has the greater guilt.
From that moment, Pilate was anxious to set him free. But the Jews shouted, "If you set him free, you're no friend of Caesar's anymore. Anyone who makes himself king is defying Caesar." Now, hearing these words, Pilate had Jesus brought out and seated himself on the chair of judgment at a place called the Pavement, in Hebrew, Gabbatha. It was Passover preparation day, about the 6th hour, when Pilate said to the Jews, "Here is your king." But they said, take him away and crucify him." But Pilate said, "Do you want me to crucify your king?" And the chief priests answered, "We have no king except Caesar." So, in the end, Pilate handed him over to them to be crucified. They then took charge of Jesus, and carrying his own cross, he went out of the city to the place of the skull, or as it is called in Hebrew, Golgotha, where they crucified him with two others, one on either side, with Jesus in the middle. And Pilate wrote out a notice and had it fixed to the cross, and it read, "Jesus the Nazarene, King of the Jews." Now this notice was read by many of the Jews because the place where Jesus was crucified was not far from the city. And the writing was in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. And so the Jewish chief priests said to Pilate, "You should not write King of the Jews, but rather, this man said, 'I am the King of the Jews.'" But Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." Now when the soldiers had finished crucifying Jesus, they took his clothing and divided it into 4 shares, one for each soldier. But his undergarment was seamless, woven in one piece from neck to hem. And so they said to one another, instead of tearing it, let's throw dice to decide who is to have it. In this way, the words of the scripture were fulfilled, where it says, "They shared out my clothing among them, they cast lots for my clothes." And this is exactly what the soldiers did. Now, near the cross of Jesus stood his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary of Magdala. Seeing his mother and the disciple he loved standing next to her, Jesus said to his mother,
"Woman, this is your son.
and then to the disciple he said,
This is your mother."
and from that moment the disciple made a place for her in his home. Now after this, Jesus knew that everything had now been completed, and to fulfill the scriptures perfectly, he said,
"I am thirsty."
So a jar full of vinegar that stood there, so putting a sponge soaked in vinegar on a hyssop stick, they held it up to his mouth. And after Jesus had taken the vinegar, he said,
"It is accomplished."
and bowing his head, he gave up the spirit. It was preparation day, and to prevent the bodies remaining on the cross during the Sabbath, since the Sabbath was a day of special solemnity, the Jews asked Pilate to have the legs broken and the bodies taken away. Consequently, the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first man who'd been crucified with him, and then the other. But when they came to Jesus, they found that he was already dead. And so, instead of breaking his legs, one of the soldiers pierced his side with a lance, and immediately there came out blood and water. Now this is the evidence of one who saw it. Trustworthy evidence. And he knows he speaks the truth. And he gives it so that you may believe as well. Because all this happened to fulfill the words of Scripture, which said, not one bone of his will be broken, and in another place, they will look on the one whom they have pierced. Now, after all of this, Joseph of Arimathea, who is a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one because he was afraid of the Jews, asked Pilate to let him remove the body of Jesus. And Pilate gave permission, so they came and took it away. Nicodemus came as well, the same one who had first come to Jesus at night time. And he brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, weighing about 100 pounds. They took the body of Jesus and wrapped it with spices in linen cloths, following the Jewish burial custom. At the place where he'd been crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb in which no one had yet been buried. And since it was the Jewish day of preparation, and the tomb was near at hand, they laid Jesus there. The Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. My friends, we have just heard the drama of the passion and death of Jesus, an event that happened roughly 2,000 years ago. But the implications of what happened 2,000 years ago impinges on our life today. The drama of the life of Jesus, his passion and death, is also our drama. In Jesus, God becomes truly a human person, entering our human experience. Not because he needed to know what it was like, God knows everything. But we need to know that God is close to us. In the drama of the Passion, Jesus faces betrayal, denial by his friends that they knew him. He faces spiritual emptiness, cannot feel God's presence, enormous physical pain. He's shamed in public. And through it all, he remains faithful and trusting in God. It wasn't easy. It was very real for him, this suffering. And the reminder, my friends, is whatever we have to face in our life, whether it's physical pain, the death of loved ones, our own death, being let down by people, being hurt by people, God is still with us. And God is calling us to healing. So the story of Good Friday is also our story. We don't run away from the pain and the questions, but we bring them to God, trusting that God is with us. Good Friday, of course, is not complete without what happens on Sunday. But for today, we focus on Good Friday as we journey towards Sunday. And now we move to the solemn prayers of the faithful today. The prayers of the faithful today are very special ones that we pray.
Let us pray, dearly beloved, for the Holy Church of God, that our God and Lord be pleased to give her peace, to guard her and to unite her throughout the whole world, and grant that, leading our life in tranquility and quiet, we may glorify God the Father Almighty.
Almighty ever-living God, who in Christ revealed your glory to all the nations, watch over the works of your mercy, that your church spread throughout the world may persevere with steadfast faith in confessing your name through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Let us pray also for our most Holy Father, Pope Francis, that our God and Lord, who choose him for the order of bishops, may keep him safe and unharmed for the Lord's holy church, to govern the holy people of God.
Lord,
Almighty ever-living God, by whose decree all things are founded, look with favor on our prayers. In your kindness protect the Pope you have chosen for us, that under him the Christian people governed by you, their Maker, may grow in love by reason and faith, through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Let us pray also for our Bishop Charles, for all bishops, priests, and deacons of the Church, and for the whole of the faithful people.
Almighty ever-living God, by whose Spirit the whole body of the Church is sanctified and governed, hear our humble prayers for those who serve your people, your ministers, that by the gift of your grace all may serve you faithfully, through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
Let us pray also for our catechumens, that our God and Lord may open wide the ears of their most innermost hearts and unlock the gates of his mercy, that having received forgiveness for all their sins through the waters of rebirth, they too may be one with Christ Jesus our Lord.
Almighty ever-living God, who make your church ever fruitful in new offspring, increase the faith and understanding of our catechumens everywhere, that reborn in the font of baptism, they may be added to the number of your adopted children, through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Let us pray also for all our brothers and sisters who believe in Christ, that our God and Lord may be pleased as they live the truth, to gather them together and to keep them in his one church.
Almighty ever-living God, who gather what is scattered and keep together what you have gathered, look kindly on the flock of your Son, that those whom one baptism has consecrated may be joined together by integrity of faith and united in the bond of charity through Christ our Lord. Amen.
We pray also for the Jewish people, to whom the Lord our God spoke first, that he may grant them to advance in love of his name and in faithfulness to his covenant.
Almighty ever-living God, who bestowed your promises on Abraham and his descendants, graciously hear the prayers of your church family, that the people you first made your own may attain the fullness of redemption through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
Let us pray also for those who do not believe in Christ, that enlightened by the Holy Spirit, they too may enter on the way of salvation.
Almighty ever-living God, grant to those who do not confess Christ, that by walking before you with a sincere heart, they may find the truth, and that we ourselves, being constant in mutual love and striving to understand more fully the mystery of your life, may be made more perfect witnesses to your love in the world, through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Let us pray also for those who do not acknowledge God, that following what is right in sincerity of heart, they may find the way to God himself.
Let us pray, brothers and sisters, to God the Father Almighty, who created all people, to seek you always by desiring you, that all will seek you by desiring you, and by finding you come to rest. We pray that despite every harmful obstacle, all may recognize the signs of your fatherly love and the witness of the good works done by those who believe in you, and so in gladness confess you, the one true God and Father of our human race, through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Let us pray also for those in public office, that our God and Lord may direct their minds and hearts according to his will, for the true peace and freedom to all.
Almighty ever-living God, in whose hand lies every human heart and the rights of peoples, look with favor, we pray, on those who govern with authority over us, that throughout the whole world, the prosperity of peoples, the assurance of peace, freedom of religion, the common good, may through your gift be made secure through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Let us pray, dearly beloved, to God the Father Almighty, that he may cleanse the world of all errors, banish disease, drive out hunger, unlock prisons, loosen fetters, grant to travellers safety, to pilgrims return, health to the sick, and salvation to the dying.
Almighty ever-living God, comfort of mourners, strength of all who toil, may the prayers of those who cry out in any tribulation come before you, that all may rejoice, because in their hour of need your mercy was at hand, through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
And now we have the respect that we show to the cross today as it comes up the church. And then the cross is placed here on the front. And of course, normally we show respect to the cross on which hung our salvation. Behold, behold the wood of the cross, on which is hung our salvation. O come, let us adore him. Behold, behold the wood of the cross, on which is hung our salvation. O come, let us adore him. Behold, behold the wood of the cross, on which is hung our salvation. O come, let us adore him.
क्रूस की महिमा गौरी, क्रूस
And now let us pray the Lord's Prayer together.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us, Lord, from evil.
Deliver us from every evil. Grant us peace in our day. In your mercy, keep us free from sin. Protect us from all undue anxiety as we wait in joyful hope for the coming of our Savior, Jesus Christ. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Lord Jesus Christ, who said to your apostles, "Peace I leave you, my peace I give you," a peace this world cannot give. Look not on our faults, mistakes, or sin, but on the faith and hope of your family, and grant us the peace and unity that comes from you, through Christ our Lord. Amen. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Happy are those who are called to the supper of the Lamb. Lord, I am not worthy you should enter under my roof, but only say the word, and my soul shall be healed.
Since we cannot receive the Holy Communion, but let us prepare ourselves by reminding us of the day when we received the body of our Christ in the best way. Remembering that day, let us say the prayer. O Immaculate, Queen of heaven and earth, Mother of God and Mediator of every grace, I believe that your dearly beloved Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, is truly, really, and substantially contained in the most holy sacrament. I love him above all things and long to receive him in my heart. Since now I cannot receive him sacramentally, be so good to place him spiritually in my soul and never permit me to be separated from him. Amen. मुझ पापी में क्या देखा था।
Almighty, ever-living God, you have restored us to life by the blessed death and resurrection of your Christ. Preserve in us the work of your mercy, that by partaking of this mystery, we may have life increasingly devoted and committed to you. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
May abundant blessing, O Lord, we pray, descend upon your people who have honored the death of your Son in the hope of their resurrection. May pardon come, comfort be given, holy faith increase, and everlasting redemption be made secure through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
As we now, my friends, depart in silence, I encourage you to keep a spirit of prayer for the rest of today, as much as is practical and real for you. And we move into Holy Saturday, preparing, of course, for the great feast of Easter.
Thank you, friends, for joining us in the celebration of the Passion of our Lord. And beginning from today, we are doing a Divine Mercy Novena till 18th April. And every day we'll be doing this Novena, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, at 3 p.m. live on the YouTube channel of I Square. And on Saturday, on the YouTube channel of A Square. And on Saturday, we'll have the Easter Vigil Mass at 6 p.m. There is probability of change in timing. We'll keep you updated. Do stay updated. And the veneration of the Shroud of Turin will be projected live on A Square channel, YouTube channel, at 8:30 p.m. on Saturday. Thank you.